Loving a narcissist is like tearing your own heart apart, one hopeful thought at a time. And if you watched part 1, you already know that leaving them isn't about winning. It's about reclaiming yourself. But we're not done. This is part 2, a continuation of the journey we started. Because breaking free from their grip takes more than just awareness. It takes action, strategy, and a mindset fortified by the very principles of Stoicism. This video is not about revenge. It's not about teaching them a lesson. It's about doing something far more powerful and far more stoic. Walking away in silence with dignity, in a way they'll never forget. No screaming, no closure speeches, just presence, then absence, just clarity, then distance. Part 1 showed you how to find that clarity and prepare your mind for the exit. But now, it's time to go deeper. Stoicism doesn't teach you to fight for control. It teaches you to control what you can, your mind, your energy, your exit. And when you apply that, you don't just leave the relationship, you leave the game. That's what breaks them. Because narcissists don't suffer when you cry. They don't suffer when you fight. They suffer when they realize they can no longer trigger you, when the hooks no longer hold, when your silence becomes proof that you've outgrown their chaos. That's when they spiral, not because they lost you, but because they lost their grip on you. In part 2, we're going further. I'll reveal 5 more principles that will help you sever the final threads of attachment and reclaim your freedom. 5 more traits that will fortify your mind against manipulation, sharpen your clarity, and turn your silence into power. If you've ever been trapped in that cycle, love, hope, hurt, repeat, this is the turning point. The things you're about to learn are not for everyone. They're for those who are ready to walk away, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally. This is how you disappear from their grasp, without apology, without bitterness, without looking back. This is Victory Stoic. If you're here, it's because you're done being someone else's emotional supply. Like this video, share it with someone who needs this more than they'll ever admit. Subscribe so you stay grounded in power, not pain. And in the comments, drop your command. Something like, "No more hope where there is no respect," or "My silence is my exit." Now let's continue, not by reacting louder, but by stepping back with a presence they never expected and will never forget. Number 6, take back your life by rebuilding it without a single word. You don't need a final message. You don't need a carefully crafted caption or a revenge glow-up story to prove you've moved on. The most brutal, beautiful response to someone who tried to break you is this: you became someone they no longer recognize. When you start working on yourself, not for revenge, not for validation, but for you, you shift everything. You stop reacting, you stop watching, you stop performing, and suddenly, they lose access, not just to your presence, but to the version of you they once controlled. Because here's the truth. Narcissists don't just fear losing you. They fear losing the version of you they created, the one they could manipulate, bend, and use. When you begin to change, to grow, to rebuild, you don't just leave them, you outgrow them. And that's a different kind of silence. Stoicism doesn't ask you to hate your past. It asks you to master your present. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." The very pain they left you with, that becomes the raw material for your comeback. Not the loud kind, but the grounded one. The kind where every morning you get up, you move your body, you sit with your thoughts, you reconnect with what makes you you. and you don't look back. Let's bring in a real-life arc. Darius, 42, from Phoenix, was drained after 5 years with a narcissistic partner. She had isolated him from friends, undermined his confidence, and made him question his gut. When it ended, he wanted to post his side of the story. He wanted to prove her wrong. Instead, he bought a journal. He started running 3 times a week, signed up for therapy. He called an old friend he hadn't spoken to in 3 years. One morning, months later, he looked in the mirror and said, "I don't even think like the man she could manipulate anymore." That's victory, not loud, but irreversible. The reason this works isn't just emotional, it's biological. When you move your body, when you write your truth, when you spend time with people who reflect your real self, your brain starts to reset its wiring. You produce less cortisol, the stress hormone, and more dopamine and serotonin, the chemicals tied to clarity, connection, and forward momentum. That's not just healing, that's rewiring your identity. So what does this look like in practice? 1. Train, not to punish yourself, but to respect your vessel. It could be weights, running, martial arts, yoga, anything that makes your body remember, I exist outside of survival mode. 2. Write, daily, without censorship. Get the thoughts out, not to impress, not to publish, just to hear yourself think without their voice interfering. 3. Reconnect with your people, your passions, your path. Who were you before them? Who do you want to be now? Find the spaces and the people that support that version. You're not proving anything. You're returning to someone you never had the chance to fully be. And here's what no one tells you. When you're rebuilding, there's a moment, quiet, ordinary, where you notice that you went a whole day without thinking about them. Then it becomes a week, then a month, and eventually, their memory doesn't sting. It doesn't burn. It doesn't echo. It just doesn't matter anymore. That is the deepest kind of closure, becoming someone who no longer needs it. So don't post, don't reply, don't explain. Wake up, move, write, reconnect, and let every quiet improvement be a step toward the life they no longer have the privilege to witness. Because the most powerful sentence you'll never say is this: I no longer need to be the version of me that you once had power over. And the most powerful move you'll ever make? Becoming the version of you they'll never have access to again. Number 7, kill the need to explain more, because that's how they pull you back in. They don't come back to apologize. They come back to reopen the conversation, because every new conversation is another opportunity to spin the story, make you doubt your decision, and keep you emotionally available. It starts subtle. A message. Can we just talk? Then a line. I just want to understand what happened. Then the hook. You owe me at least a real goodbye. But you don't. You don't owe them a better ending. You owe yourself a better life. This is where many strong people relapse. Not because they miss the narcissist, but because they still think they need to close the loop the right way. You don't. That's the trap. Because every time you try to explain more, what hurt you, what you hoped for, why you left, they don't hear the words. They hear an opening, a thread to pull, a crack to wedge themselves back into your mind. Stoicism teaches that peace is internal, not granted by someone else's understanding. As Epictetus said, if someone succeeds in provoking you, realize that your mind is complicit in the provocation. That applies here. Every time you choose to meet them, just one more time, you're giving them another round to manipulate your clarity into confusion. Let's ground this with a story. Megan, 33, from Portland, was a people pleaser who'd spent years with a narcissist who gaslit her constantly. When she finally walked away, he messaged, "I just want to talk like adults." At first, she ignored it, but the guilt crept in. She thought, maybe I do owe him a real conversation. She agreed to meet, just coffee, in public. He was calm, charming, said all the right things. 3 days later, she was back in his apartment. 3 months later, she was back in therapy, asking why she ignored her gut again. She didn't need closure. She needed boundaries. But guilt disguised itself as kindness. Here's how you kill this pattern. 1. Don't agree to meet. Not for talking it through, not for ending it the right way, not because they said they've changed. You had your clarity. That was the ending. 2. Avoid familiar spaces. Don't go back to the cafe where you used to fight and make up. Don't bump into them on purpose. Your healing isn't built in old battlefields. 3. Cut off secondhand contact. If they reach out through friends, through work, through shared circles, don't bite. That's not persistence. That's strategic access. Psychology calls this hoovering, when a narcissist tries to suck you back into the cycle using guilt, nostalgia, or emotional blackmail. Your job is not to reason with the vacuum. Your job is to unplug from it entirely. What should you do instead? Write it all down. Everything you wish you could say, every explanation, every closure sentence, and then delete it, burn it, file it away. Because it's not for them, it's for you. To empty your system of the words that never needed to be heard by someone who only ever weaponized your honesty. And if they keep pushing, say nothing. Silence isn't cruelty, it's self-respect. You already explained yourself by leaving. Anything beyond that becomes fuel for their fire. The truth is, narcissists don't really want an explanation. They want access. And when you finally stop offering it, you stop being a character in their story. You become unreachable, not because you disappeared, but because you finally remembered. Your peace is not up for debate. So let them talk to the silence. Let them yell at the locked door. Let them wonder what you would have said. You said it already. You left. Number 8. Don't post for them to see. Live for real, not for reaction. You left the relationship. Now leave the stage. One of the most common traps after walking away from a narcissist is the urge to perform your healing, to craft stories, captions, even subtle indirect quotes, just vague enough for them to wonder. New me. Energy shift. Protecting my peace. All dressed up as empowerment, but quietly hoping they're watching. Let's be honest, we've all felt that urge to look strong, to seem over it, to post a smiling selfie not because we're happy, but because we want them to think we are. But here's the truth. If your healing is designed to be seen, it's still tied to them. You're not healing. You're acting healed. Stoicism calls this out without apology. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." And in this case, stop curating an image of freedom. Be free. Stop building your emotional life like a highlight reel, designed for your ex's curiosity. That's not growth. That's just a new kind of performance. Remember, narcissists don't care about your happiness. They care about being the center of it. When you post, "I'm doing amazing," they either roll their eyes, mock you privately, or, even worse, use it as bait to reel you back in. "You look happy. Can we talk?" It's not admiration. It's re-entry. Real story. Jenna, 29, from Atlanta, spent months recovering from an emotionally manipulative relationship. Every time she made progress, she posted about it. Photos at the gym, cryptic captions, new outfits. Her friends cheered her on. But deep down, every post was a question. Is he watching? Does he regret it? And every time he reacted, even just a like, she felt pulled back into the mental loop. Until one day, her therapist asked, "What would your healing look like if he didn't exist?" That question changed everything. She stopped posting for effect. She started journaling instead. She went to the beach and left her phone in the car. She laughed with friends, without needing to document it. And that's when the real freedom started. Quiet, deep, satisfying. So ask yourself this before every post. Am I sharing this because it reflects my joy, or because I want them to see it? If it's the second, pause. Sit with that. Then ask, what would I do right now if they weren't watching at all? Do that instead. Here's a practice to keep you honest. 1. Take the photo, but don't post it. Save it. Let the moment live for you, not your feed. 2. Journal your thoughts instead of posting them. If it's truly about release, write it raw, just for your eyes. Your phone doesn't have to be your therapist. 3. Limit your stories. If you're feeling the need to show, you're still healing through others' reactions. Pull it back. Focus inward. This is not about hiding. It's about detoxing from performative recovery. Healing isn't a trend. It's not aesthetic. It's ugly, silent, private. It happens in kitchens at 1 a.m. It happens in the middle of a run. It happens when you stop posting and start living. The most powerful version of you isn't the one they see online. It's the one they never get to see again. And that version? She's not uploading. She's not waiting. She's just out there, free, focused, unbothered. Not because she wants to be seen, but because she finally remembers what it feels like to live without an audience. Number 9. Redefine what respect looks like, and never negotiate below it again. If you don't set the standard, the world will hand you scraps and call it love. Most people leave a toxic relationship thinking they just had bad luck. But the deeper truth is this: you didn't lack love, you lacked standards. You accepted crumbs and convinced yourself it was enough because, at the time, you didn't have a clear definition of what enough even meant. When you walk away from a narcissist, the work isn't just in leaving, it's in what you allow next. If you don't redefine your terms, you'll repeat the pattern in a different face. This is where Stoicism draws a hard line. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts," meaning what you accept, what you tolerate, what you normalize, that becomes your reality. And if you've been in a cycle where disrespect, gaslighting, inconsistency, and manipulation became familiar, then your internal compass needs a reset. It starts with a question. What does a respectful relationship actually look like for me? Day to day, in action, not theory. Not, he's nice when he wants to be. Not, she texts back eventually. Not, they're just going through something. No. We're talking about a baseline of emotional safety and mutual regard that is so non-negotiable, you'd rather be alone than compromise it again. Let's take a real-world example. Aaron, 41, from Houston, spent 2 years with a woman who weaponized silence and blame every time she didn't get her way. When he finally left, he made a list, not of red flags, but of bare minimums. Daily consistency, ownership of emotions, conflict without manipulation, affection without performance. When he dated again, He read that list every week. It saved him from 2 almost relationships that looked good on the surface, but lacked the standard underneath. Here's how to apply this to your own life. 1. Write down your baseline. What does respect look like? Tangibly. Is it punctuality? Active listening? Accountability? Write it. Keep it visible. This is your new floor, not your dream ceiling. 2. Audit your last relationship, not to blame, but to clarify. Where was respect? Missing ? When did you abandon your own needs to keep the peace? These are the spots you build your new foundation around. Practice holding the line early. In new interactions, the moment someone laughs at a boundary, disrespects a value, or gaslights a concern, that's your data. Don't justify it. Don't explain it away. Exit quietly. That's Stoicism. Psychologically, this process is called boundary recalibration. It's not about putting up walls. It's about recognizing that you teach people how to treat you by what you tolerate. And the most dangerous lie is this: I can handle it. You probably can, but you shouldn't have to. A healthy relationship doesn't require endurance. It requires alignment. And when you redefine respect, you stop romanticizing struggle. You stop thinking love has to be earned through suffering. You realize that someone raising their voice, dismissing your needs, or consistently making you feel small once might be a mistake. Twice? That's a message. And a Stoic does not ignore the second message. Because here's what most people won't say out loud. The person who hurts you once and says sorry is human. The person who keeps doing it and expects you to stay is entitled. And you staying doesn't make you loyal. It makes you complicit. You're not here to rehabilitate disrespect. You're here to recognize it early and remove yourself completely. So moving forward, every time you feel something's off, don't overthink it. Don't debate it. Don't turn it into a project. Just return to your standard. And if they fall short, that's the end of the conversation. That's not being cold. That's being clear. And clarity, more than love, more than chemistry, is what protects your peace. So write your standard, keep it sacred, and remember, a Stoic does not offer repeat access to what someone already mishandled. Number 10. If you're ready, open your heart to love again. And if you're not, open it to connection. Not everyone after a narcissist is a threat. Not every compliment hides an agenda. Not every hand reaching toward you wants to take. You might finally meet one that wants to hold. When you've been with someone who distorted love into control, who used warmth as a hook, who made attention feel dangerous, you start to equate intimacy with risk. Even the good starts to feel suspicious. When someone is kind, your reflex is to wait for the turn. When someone listens, your gut whispers, what do they want? That's not brokenness. That's your nervous system still standing guard. But there comes a point, not forced, not rushed, when you're allowed to ask, what if the next person isn't here to hurt me? Stoicism isn't about shutting your heart forever. It's about choosing wisely, grounded in truth, not fear. As Seneca wrote, the wise man is neither crushed by the misfortunes of love, nor hardened against its joys. You don't need to be fully healed to let new people in. You just need to be self-aware enough not to betray yourself again. And that's the gift you've earned through the pain. You're no longer desperate. You're no longer easy to fool. But you're also no longer closed. You're discerning. And that's the middle path between guarded and gullible. Let's bring this to a real moment. Eric, 44, from Michigan, stayed single for 2 years after leaving a controlling partner. Not because he hated relationships, but because he didn't trust his own filters anymore. He worked on himself, quietly. Then one day, someone made him laugh, not because they were trying, but because they were real. He noticed the difference. The pace was slow. The energy was peaceful. No confusion, no highs and crashes, just steady interest and gentle curiosity. He didn't run from it. He didn't dive in blindly. He just stayed present. That was the start of something better. Not flashy, but sustainable. So here's the practice. 1. If you're open to love, start from presence, not projection. Don't look for someone to restore your faith. That's not their job. Just let people show up as they are and observe. No rushing, no rescuing, just clarity. 2. If you're not ready for love, lean into connection. Let yourself make new friends, join new spaces, explore curiosity without pressure. Sometimes the soul needs community before it can handle romance. 3. Watch how people make you feel long after they leave the room. Do you feel calm, seen, or are you already questioning your worth? That answer tells you more than any first impression. Because one day, someone will speak to you without performance. They won't trigger your trauma. They'll respect it. They won't try to own your energy. They'll honor it. And when that happens, you'll realize, it was never love that hurt me. It was how I settled for less and called it love. So no, Stoicism doesn't mean closing off. It means knowing who you are deeply enough to know who's safe to let in. If you're ready, step forward. If you're not, stand still and root yourself. Because the right love, the right friend, the right connection won't need to be chased. It will feel like peace showing up in a new voice. Conclusion. A narcissist doesn't break when you shout at them. They don't break when you cry. They break when the person who once gave them everything walks away without a single word. No final explanation, no angry monologue, just silence, peace, and presence walking in the opposite direction and never looking back. You see, Stoicism doesn't ask you to win. It doesn't care about payback. It teaches something far more powerful. You don't need to destroy anyone. You just need to stop letting them define you. You don't need closure from someone who never gave you clarity. You don't need justice from someone who never valued truth. What you need is space, distance, perspective, the stillness to realize, I'm no longer who I was when I tolerated that. You are not here to perform your strength. You are here to become it. The Stoic response to betrayal is not revenge. It's realignment. It's choosing to build your life so deeply, so quietly, so firmly, that the person who once had full access to your heart is now just another name you no longer respond to. That's what breaks them. Not your rage, but your evolution. Not your glow-up, but your absence. Walk away like a wave pulling back from the shore. No need to crash, no need to flood. Just pull away. Deep, unstoppable, irreversible. Let your exit become the echo that reminds them. This time, they don't get to come back. If this message hit you in the chest, you're not alone. Victory Stoic exists to give voice to the things we often feel in silence. So, like this video, share it with someone who's been stuck in that cycle for too long. Subscribe to Victory Stoic so you never walk alone again. And in the comments, drop your command, your story, or your shift. Say it clearly. My exit is the end. My silence is my power. Or or share what moment made you finally choose you. Thank you for watching and for choosing peace over chaos, clarity over confusion, and your future over their control. This is how we reclaim ourselves, not with noise, but with the kind of stillness that shakes the ground they once stood on.